Thank you, Jason. So, welcome everybody to Maximizing AI Tools, an introduction to AI agents. Thank you very much, RightWorks, for sponsoring this webinar. My name is Hector Garcia, and I'm going to take you through the table of contents for today. So, I'll briefly speak about me. I'll talk about this series, and what I talk about this series is because I've done tons of AI webinars through CPA Academy. I'm continuing to do them. I'm very thankful CPA Academy for giving me a platform to teach this out into the world, which I think is very, very important. And I will briefly talk about RightWorks and the kind of work that we are doing together. Then we'll talk about what are agents. We kind of define this nebulous concept that we have right now. Then I'm gonna jump into. I'm gonna give you some insights into how I think about what the future of an accountant plus AI looks like, which is becoming software developers. Like I think that accountants might very quickly become software designers or software developers. And I will show you what I mean by that in sort of tangible terms. And so we'll do that in Anthropic Claude, which is currently the best coding agent platform that I could think of, at least for a layman like myself, person that doesn't know how to do any code. And then we'll go into the agentic features, or the term that you use for agent-like features that ChatGPT has released. Scheduled tasks, deep research, and operator. So the last 7 courses or so that I taught at the end of 2024 and 2025 are in this slide. So if you want to fill the gap and go back after this webinar and watch those, definitely watch them. This webinar is sort of semi-advanced from the perspective that we're not going to show the basics of how AI works, because we are a year and a half into this series. And what I try to do every month or every 45 days or so when I appear in CPA Academy is to show you something new, something modern, something that a new beta feature. So I'm always trying to stay in the edge, so to speak, of the new features. So every single new webinar you see through CPA Academy tries to show at least something new. That being said, some of the things that you will see today, you probably have seen before, because the last 30 to 45 days, they've added some new things, but they haven't added that many things. So we'll try to show you slightly different examples of those previous features that we have done. So by myself, I'm a CPA based out of Florida. I'm an advanced certified QuickBooks Pro advisor. I have my own YouTube channel if you want to check that out. I'm the founder of a software company called WriteTool, which is a Chrome extension that works alongside of QuickBooks Online and enhances the experience. And I'm going to show you how I have learned about software development through that experience. And I'm the co-host of Reframe, which is one of the 2 conferences that I'm scheduled to be at this year. There's my email. If there's anything that wasn't clear, or you have any comments or questions or suggestions about the next webinars, just take a picture, write my email down, email me after the webinar. So the first conference I'm going to go to, the first event I'm going to go to this year is called Right Now. It's an event by RightWorks. It's in Nashville, Tennessee, May 19th to May 19th. And I have one session called Getting Strategic with AI. And I'm still developing the content for that. But what I'm trying to do with this session, so if you're planning to go to Nashville to Right Now 2025, May 19th to 21st, is to speak to all the firm owners, single person firm owners or multi-employee firm owners, small firms, large firms of all sizes, is to think about what does your business strategy look like with AI. So I imagine 30 years ago when spreadsheets were introduced, that firms have to think about what does a strategy look like now that spreadsheets exist. And I imagine that 10 years later, 15 years later, when QuickBooks and sort of retail accounting software came out, accounting firms has had to think, well, what does our strategy look like now that there's people have their own accounting software at home, right? And then when the internet came out and online banking came out, and then firms had to think, what does our strategy look like now that there's internet and security features and we can do online banking? And then when cloud accounting software came out, the firms had to then again think, what does our strategy look like now that all the accounting software is on the cloud? Fundamentally changes how you think about operating your business. I think with AI, it's going to happen really, really quickly, where it needs to be part of the conversation. So definitely join us at Right Now 2025 in Nashville, Tennessee. If you can join us, or if you want to continue this type of conversation through the year, also take a look at the RightWorks community. The RightWorks community is a community of forward-looking accounting professionals that all chat and share best practices about how to take our profession forward. And you can join that, and there's different levels of being able to join that. So in the slide, there's a link to coming to Right Now. If you're interested, there's a coupon code that has been created for this session. So you can use that coupon code for 15%, and also the link to join the RightWorks community. So that's it for RightWorks. So thank you very much for that. And I'm going to explain really quick in a meta way what agents are based on me asking ChatGPT what agents are. So I asked the latest model of ChatGPT 4.5, and I said, what is the best simple definition for, quote, agents within the context of ChatGPT or AI? And the definition is agents in this context are software programs that act autonomously to perform tasks, make decisions, or achieve goals in behalf of the user. The way I contrast what an agent-like feature is versus a current chat feature is that it's performing more than one task at once. In some cases, not immediately, but it will happen in the near future, you'll be able to program these things to happen automatically, so you're not staring at the chat screen giving it instructions. These things are happening behind the scenes automatically for you. I think that's what agents are going to be. Now, I will give you I will possibly kind of maybe turn you off to tell you that currently agents are not how they're painted to be. Like, you're going to hear the term quite a bit. It's a big buzzword, but not yet, at least in the accounting profession, I haven't seen an agent that is truly autonomous. Like, it does require the human to interject or be part of it in one way, shape, or form. And I'm going to show you what that looks like now. So this is an introduction to agents. So when agents do truly come out and truly are autonomous and perform tasks and make decisions and achieve goals sort of on their own, so you're ready for them. So I want to make sure I set that premise that this is a very, very introductory course, and it shows really the rudimentary ways that agents are going to start seeping into our profession, but they're not there yet. Okay, let's move on. We're going to talk about some live demos, and I'm going to start by talking about Anthropic Claude. So I'm going to go into Anthropic Claude. Anthropic Claude is a competitor of ChatGPT. It has one huge flaw, which is Anthropic Claude cannot search the web. It's probably the biggest criticism that it has right now. However, it makes up for it in its ability to quickly produce amazing code. Now, as accountants, you may think, well, why do we need to produce code, Hector? I mean, I'm not a programmer. I signed up to be an accountant. And my answer to that is what I believe that in the very near future, our job is going to be to create totally customizable experiences for our customers so they can understand and visualize the data. Now, why do I say it like that? Well, it is because currently the trend of the current software is to create consistent experiences. So everybody has a P&L and balance sheet that looks the same. Everybody has a portal or a reporting platform that looks the same. And the trend has been, hey, as accounting professionals, you can be most efficient, you can be most effective by standardizing the experience throughout all your customers. But one thing that is for sure is our customers don't understand the current way the current way that the financial statements are put together. So, for example, let's assume that we give a customer a P&L. You've seen a P&L, what it looks like, from QuickBooks. Every customer gets the P&L. Every P&L looks the same. You send them a balance sheet. Every customer gets the same balance sheet. Is consistent. Accounting principles say that all reports should look the same, and I get that. But how many of you find yourself explaining the same thing to the same customer put it in the comments. How many of you are explaining the exact same thing to the same customer every single month? And you feel like it's Groundhog Day. Like every month is Groundhog Day. I'm explaining what the balance sheet is. I'm explaining what current assets are. And I'm explaining why the accrual-based profitability is not the same thing that is in the bank account. This stuff happens all the time. So what I think the solution to that is to create custom catered visualization experiences for every customer, which I truly think is the future of our. I'm not saying the future of accounting. I'm saying the future of our profession's relevancy. So I'm gonna grab a bunch of reports. Let's say I'm gonna load P&L, balance sheet, expense by customers, expenses by vendor, profit and loss by quarter, sales by customer, AR aging, AP aging. Okay, so I'm gonna load all the reports into Claude. And right now, this is not technically not an agent. An agent would grab all the stuff from QuickBooks automatically and do this for us. But I'm kind of showing you so there's a little bit of the step that we have to take, which is we load the reports and then we tell it what we want. And let me explain to you how we're gonna do this. My customer owns a pool company. I am a CPA and I prepared all these financial statements for them. I don't want them to see the reports in the standard fashion because they don't understand it, and I find myself having to explain what the numbers mean every single month. Instead, I want you to create an HTML visual program that allows the customer to navigate the reports, understand the numbers, and make it a totally customizable experience, contextualized to the fact that they are a small pool company based out of Florida. So what I'm thinking, and again, I'm proposing this to be something that's going to happen in our future. What I'm thinking is, instead of using standard systems to present reports, is we're going to be using accounting principles to build the reports the way they are, and then we're going to create catered visual experiences for every customer. So I'm going to go ahead and send that. And this will take a few minutes, okay? And this is the concept of an agent that is going to be performing a lot of tasks at once, right? I send it like 6 or 7 reports. I told it, create a program. I told it, make it visually compelling. I told it to make it contextual to them. And Claude literally just starts writing code. Okay, perfect. So you're going to see the code happening live. Now, again, this is not fun in a webinar format. This is like watching paint dry, okay? But what's happening in the background is Claude, it's writing a program for me, and it's using the context that I gave it. It's going to be using the reports, and the payoff is awesome. So we'll tell you just to kind of be patient about that. But then look at the answer. I'll create an interactive dashboard for your pool company client that will make financial data more approachable and easier to understand. So it's kind of explaining back to me what I said. This will help them navigate the financial information without requiring constant explanations from you. Okay, what I also want you to take a leap forward is after you build a custom experience like this, we will have a future where like software developers are going to build platforms in which we can easily deploy these things within our practice management software. So instead of our clients just getting standard P&L reports, every one of our clients could potentially have this. Now, I do have the pro version, the paid version of Claude. I don't know if the free version does that. I literally, as soon as all these tools come out and I find them semi-useful, I pay for them, mostly because I want to have the latest and greatest tools. So it's done, okay? And then when it finishes, you can view it in code mode. And what code allows you to do is you can send this to a programmer and say, hey, this is kind of the custom software I want you to build for my practice. But you can click on preview. You can click on preview, and in the preview, you get to start seeing what this looks like. Now, one thing that's really, really neat about this is you can click here where it says publish, and I'm actually gonna use it in publish mode. You can click on publish, and then you click on publish and copy link, and then you get a public URL that you could share with a customer. Now, in the real world, this would be a secure URL that is connected to most likely your client portal, but you'll be able to, and I'm going to paste it as a question. I don't know if I'm going to paste it in the chat too. Jason, just make sure that people have access to that link so they can click on it themselves and kind of see what that looks like. And I'm going to go in incognito window to kind of show you that anyone has access to this link. So once you click on the link, again, this is a public version of the custom code that was built to visualize the financial statements. So I'm going to click on show content, and then you get to see this thing that was built pretty much immediately. Now, it's not pretty design wise, but it just within minutes, it really just got started. Okay. So it takes, it just starts building these little boxes for me: total revenue, net income, current assets, current liabilities. Here's some quarterly performance. Here's some key financial ratios. Here's some cash positions and alerts. Notice that it's blue, like the way the pool water would be, and that's all. It does it like that. Like if you tell it, the name of my company is Hot Fire Kitchen, it would use red. Like it's just interesting how it uses all this context to build and design, which is what I find particularly fascinating. And then we have income and expenses. Balance sheet. You can kind of go through all those and kind of see how it works. The clicks are not working for me, but you can actually troubleshoot and go, and you can tell it the overview is working, but the buttons are not clicking. Okay, and then basically you're going to be doing this sort of thing where you'll be troubleshooting. At some point, the way this will work, like sort of in practical terms, the way this will work is this code then needs to be added into the software that you use. So it's not like you can use this code and automatically sort of automate this process coming from QuickBooks. You would have to copy and paste this code into a new chat and say, hey, use this same exact program, but with these new reports. Okay, so that's the way it would look. That's the way it would look like today. Okay, and then you can go back and forth and chat with it and say, hey, there's a problem here, or I didn't like this box, or make this box bigger, or create these filters, or create this drop down, etc., etc. And I have built features for my app, for an app called Write Tool, by myself using Claude, going back and forth. And then once Claude gives me the exact version of the visualization that I want, I send it to my programmers so they can build it into our software. Okay, so we'll let that be, and I'm going to show you some other things that I've done in the past. So, for example, I went into this other one and I give it slightly different instructions. I said, help me develop an interactive BI Explorer tool that gives the user all sorts of interesting, fun ways to visualize the data. As a CPA, I want to revolutionize the way the financial statements went, and it did multiple. There was multiple versions of it, and we went back and forth, and then the final version will look very similar to that one. I'll just kind of show you what that looks like. And then this one actually has interactive drop-down menus, has multiple tabs, and what's really cool is it just kind of creates that visual representation. It kind of creates a mock upload button and that sort of thing. So I particularly like Claude for coding just because it's much better visually to build these type of things for me. Now, ChatGPT it actually has those features, but Claude, I find it to be better. So I currently pay for Claude and ChatGPT and also Google Gemini. So I currently pay for these three separate platforms because I end up liking one over the other, so to speak. Okay, good time to do another poll. So we are going to start a new poll. And while the poll is up, I would love, and Jason, I don't think they have access to the chat. They only have access to the Q&A. I would like to see in the Q&A, what are your thoughts about this? Like what's brewing through your brain in terms of how do you think this type of tools where you build custom visual programs that you reimagine for specific customers, like how do you think this can impact your firm, how you work? And there was a question in the chat in terms of where do you publish this? So like, again, I used fake information from a fake QuickBooks file, right? But if you were to use like real information, you would copy this link and you would just email it to your client if you want them to use this. Now, I don't think this is ready for prime time, in my opinion, where I should every single month upload all my clients' financial statements and have it do this. But I think with one or two clients, you can start experimenting. You can go like if you have a particular client that tells you, "Hey, Hector, I love this stuff like it happens to me. I love the stuff that you're doing with AI. How can this help me?" And I said, "Hey, would you like to sit down, spend an hour, and look for ways to visualize your data?" And that's kind of how I discovered, how to do this. And a lot of customers get excited. A lot of customers say, "You know what? I don't feel comfortable with you uploading my P&L and my balance sheet into these AI platforms." And this is something that we're going to have to navigate, right? As we gain more understanding of how secure and how private these platforms are. Right now I'm in the retail version of the chat, but once developers use the API version, that's totally 100% secure. So there's going to be a need to create one more version of this, so to speak, that is specifically designed to have a complete data security. It doesn't use the retail version of the tools, and is meant just for accountants. And again, these reports, you don't save them per se. You have this set of code that you can save or save somewhere, or you can use the publish link to do that. And then there's a download button where you can like literally download the code, and you can give that code to a software to your software developer or whatever happens to be. So that's kind of how I currently visualize the future of the accountant AI relationship, where we can be most valuable, is curating personal experiences that require code, but don't require you to know any code, so to speak. Okay, so now we're going to switch to ChatGPT. And in some previous webinars, I have covered this in the past, but it's worth covering one more time, particularly in today's age, right? So we're recording this in the first quarter of 2025, which we're getting inundated with all sorts of news and speculations about in America what the tax code is going to look like. What is the government going to pass in terms of new tax laws? Is the government going to get more in debt? To create some tax refunds and lower the tax rate. So there's a lot of speculation right now. I believe like probably closer to summer or fall of 2025, we probably will see new tax code. We'll see new tax laws added, right, to serve the political promises, from the entire party that is occupying Washington D.C. So what we could do is to stay on top of everything. Instead of going into Google and put tax news or something, we can create agents that do this for us. So you're going to switch from GPT 4.0 to GPT 4.0 with scheduled tasks. And again, I use the paid version of ChatGPT. I'm making the assumption that the free version doesn't have this. I don't use the free version, so I haven't had a chance to look at that. And then I just tell it in plain English what I want. I want a daily email at 8:30 a.m. that tells me all the discussions about taxes, tax policy, tariffs. I want to see all the talking points from all sides of the aisle. And I also want to have talking points for my clients when they call me to ask me questions. I want to make them feel that I'm on top of it, even though nothing really new has passed. So I just create a very, very sort of generic request. And then I send that. Again, it needs to be under the tasks. You have to select scheduled tasks, and you have to say the frequency. So then I'm going to hit send. And then what ends up happening is it automatically creates, it's a task for you. So it's what they're calling an agent. It's really not that complex. All it does is it does a ChatGPT query for you. It translated what I said into this. And then every day at 8:30 in the morning, I'm going to get an email that says, click here to see your agent. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to my email. Give me a second. I'll unshare my screen really quick. Okay. So every day I get an email, about, whatever's happening, in the discussions in it. And then I get basically it's a one click away. I click on view message. It loads ChatGPT for me, and then it performs the search, and then it gives me the answer. Now you can see, here it is. Okay, and this is the one that I did yesterday for today's example. So schedule a daily search for tax and accounting news with implications about the future of small business, and talking points for my clients. Similar to the one I just showed you, the thing is that I actually have the result. Okay, so here's the first version of this. Okay, so here's the latest tax and accounting developments affecting small businesses along with key talking points. So here we go. IRS budget cuts and potential impact on services. So here's the information. Here's the source, which is great. So it actually does the homework for me and goes out and picks up all this information. And here are the key talking points. So I anticipated delays with IRS reduced resources. Clients should prepare for some delays in tax return processing. File on time, stay informed. Here's upcoming expirations to the tax code provisions. Again, some links to those news, and they might not be necessarily new. Like this one's from December, so that's already a couple months away. But again, within 90 days or so, it'll grab information. Changes to R&D development coming soon with our client talking points. So imagine, particularly if you're a tax preparer, or even if you're not a tax preparer, I would say, particularly if you're not a tax preparer, as an accounting professional, your clients will see you as a source of truth. They will see you as the oracle. And with so much confusing information coming from, the left side or the right side, a lot of people don't know what to believe. And a lot of people kind of like read the news, and then they read the part that's only convenient for them. And then they reshape their thinking about how our tax system works. Like, for example, I had a client a couple of days ago tell me, I heard Trump is going to abolish the IRS. And then my answer to that, I could have gone multiple ways. If for example, if I'm super pro Trump, I would say, of course he should, and this and that, and I could just completely, entertain that concept. And if I'm completely anti-Trump, I could say, well, everything the guy says it's false, right? So, as a professional, I don't think you should take a side. I think you should be more like, okay, that sounds interesting. Let me tell you what I do know. And then all this information will be fresh in your head, because every single day you schedule yourself at 8:30 in the morning to read all the talking points. So that's kind of what I think the real usefulness of GPT tasks is to keep you updated without you having to Google search specific things. Another disclaimer, when I think of the concept of AI agents, what I'm thinking in the back of my head is, can ChatGPT do things for me in my behalf? Now, again, I have not seen this to be something that is true immediately at this moment, but it's something that's going to come in the very, very near future. One of the features that we're now seeing that is giving us a glimpse into using a chatbot to give the computer instructions and get in exchange actions and tasks that we are not doing is called Operator. Now, Operator is only available in the free version. In the $200 a month version of ChatGPT. Okay, a little bit challenging to think of. Can I or should I pay $200 for ChatGPT? But if it can replace half an employee or a third of an employee or a fifth of an employee, that's super cheap. And not even talking about replacing, right? Because I don't want to be part of the narrative that AI is going to replace people. More like, can I reposition or repurpose that employee to do much higher value tasks, and then start getting rid of some of the mundane tasks. So I'll kind of give you a kind of an example of that. Okay, so with Operator, what it does is it runs a virtual browser, and it does things for you based on instructions. Now, what I like to see is something that runs in my browser, not in a virtual browser inside of a browser. And I think that in the very short term, we're going to see that soon. And when that happens, that's going to be a game changer. But this gives you a really good preview of what that's going to look like. So like some of the ways to kind of do that is to like some of the ways to illustrate that is by having it do things in QuickBooks, for example. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to tell it, open a QuickBooks Online test drive file. And again, in the real world, you would actually log in into QuickBooks Online and log in into a real company file. I don't put usernames and passwords into chatbots, so I still personally don't trust it. So the closest thing to that is we can test it with a sample file. Now, I gave it a very simple task. I said, open up a QuickBooks Online test drive. Think of this as an intern, right? So like if you go to an intern and say, open up a QuickBooks Online test drive, and that intern has never done it before, and you have to assume that operator has never done anything before, it's actually going to literally just Google QuickBooks Online test drive, and then I'm just going to maximize this here. And based on what it finds, it'll search through Google, or in this case, Bing, and it'll try to figure out where do I need to click on to achieve this, right? So in this specific case, it went into QBO test drive, which is how you see a sample file of QuickBooks Online, and then it's trying to figure out which one to go to. If it gets stuck or if it's not sure, you'll say something like, I found the QuickBooks Online test drive, should I proceed? And then you can just say yes, okay? So it does kind of stop and go if it's not sure which way to go, but then it continues to do what it's supposed to do. So in this case, it's going to click on one of those two, I assume, and it's just doing it. Like my hands are up, right? I'm not clicking on anything. And it's going to click on one of them and then try to go to the next step. And then when it gets stuck, it will ask you. Oh, great question. I get this question all the time. I'm not impressed with Copilot, mostly because Microsoft has really sort of started hit and miss. The original version of Copilot was just a Bing chat that was sort of an enhanced Bing chat. But what I understand Copilot is supposed to do now is supposed to integrate into the operating system, into the Microsoft Office platform, into Excel, into Word, into all those things. And if that's the case, then I'm going to say, okay, absolutely, I would be impressed to see it collaborate tasks with me, because I'm doing things in Microsoft all the time. Like I'm doing things in Excel, I'm doing things in Word, in Outlook. So if it is collaborating with me sort of the same way I'm trying to show you in this live webinar how to sort of collaborate, then I would be very impressed. But I haven't seen it work sort of in the same way that I get to see some of these things work. So I'm still a little bit skeptical in terms of how useful it could be. So there's another question here. Can Claude replace things like Tableau, Power BI, and how would they interact? So Claude won't, because Claude's going to be very basic in terms of what it can code. Tableau and Power BI are companies that have developed their software very deeply for many years, and it's for this in 5 minutes to code something like that, it won't happen. Okay. All right, so I'm going to share my screen again. I got to sort it out. I was forced to. I couldn't use a sample file. I had to log into sort of a sample file that I have. So this will give you a general idea. So I'm back into Operator, and I logged into one of the sample files I used to work with. And then I'm going to give it instructions, okay? So I'm going to tell it, tell me who are my top 3 customers, in other words, that have purchased the most from me. Again, we know how to run a report of sales by customer, and we know how to sort by amount. So these are tasks that this is not really saving us time. It really isn't. But what this demonstrates is that this can act like an intern. Okay, this can act like an intern. So we give it ambiguous instructions, like who are my top customers, but I don't tell it how to find the data. Okay, I just said they're my 3 top customers in terms of sales. I'm not using my hands. It's going into QuickBooks and it's trying to figure out what the heck I want, right? Like it's going to QuickBooks, it clicked on reports, it's clicking through all the different tabs and trying to see if maybe it can find the information. And then it eventually is going to choose to click in one of these reports. So it's reading a screen the same way a human can. And I'm not controlling any of this. It's figuring things out, right? So it's searching, it's browsing. And one of the things that I find interesting about this is that forever, programmers have always really thought about have always really thought about programming for humans. But now that we're going to start seeing sort of operators here and people using operators in creative ways, I think software programmers now have to start thinking about programming, building software for robots as well, which is a huge implication. Okay, so it got stuck here because my sample file doesn't contain any 2025 data. So it actually went into a report and it looks like it was blank. So I'm just going to tell it, use all dates. Okay, so I just give it a specific, it's just a quirky thing of my sample file that, I copied this from QuickBooks Desktop and the data is future looking. So I could have given them those instructions at the beginning. I could have said use last year, use this particular year. Now that I use all dates, it will have more information. So again, this is why it's not truly an agent, because it's still, like in the real world, it still kind of requires a human interaction. But again, it is going in there, it is searching through the report, and then it's discovering the information for us. Okay. And now, what after it's done, it's doing the sorting. It's reading. It should give us the answer. But then we can have it actually create some tasks. So we'll wait until that finishes, and then we'll give it a follow-up task to that. Okay. So we'll just kind of have to wait. And again, I have to recognize, because people tell me all this time, it's like, Hector, you're showing us something that takes much longer to do by waiting for the bot to think than for me to just run the report. Yes, that is true. And I recognize that. And it is because we're working with operator in the front end. You have to think of a future in the near world, in the near term, where operators do not work in the front end like this. They are automated in the background. Like you tell it, hey, go to QuickBooks, pull this, run this report, make this adjustment, and do this every month or do it every week. Okay, and then obviously you would give a task that QuickBooks cannot do now. So he gave me the answer, and then I'm going to give it some other information. I'm going to say that customer Dunning's Pool Depot turned out to be a fraud, and I have to adjust all those sales as a journal entry. Can you help me with that? So now we get a little bit more deep, right? Like we get this sort of nebulous concept that now we have to apply our judgment, right? Like this is going to require somebody to think through this, but we give the operator this, layman English terms, and then it's going to try to figure out what that is, right? So now it's going to navigate to the journal entries and adjust the sales by creating a journal entry, and is searching through, like it's actually going through and going, okay, where are the journal entries? It knows the amount. It's figuring out where are the journal entries, what kind of adjustment should I make, and it's making all these decisions by themselves. So this actually, it stopped. It said, hey, to adjust, I need to create a journal entry to adjust sales versus accounts receivable. Okay, and it actually asked me, is this appropriate? Okay, and I'm just going to say confirm, proceed, do your thing, right? And it's going to do its thing. So it's going to start figuring out how to write journal entries. Again, this has not been trained to do any of this work. This is using the language model, is using the AI to navigate the screen, and through navigation of the screen, and look, it's even reading the chart of accounts, trying to figure out what is the best possible account I can use. So it's trying to figure out, where's my sales account, right? And what is the best possible sales account that I can use? It looks for sales, and sales doesn't exist. So it will notice that. It'll say, oh crap, I try to use sales, it doesn't exist. So it might find a different one, or it might literally create the account for me. Again, the same way a human would, right? Like, oh, I don't know what account to use. It will do that. Now, if in the instructions, I would have said, if you can't find the account, search what revenue those sales were hit against, and it will search through and look at the report to see what are the original amounts, and it's sort of like getting stuck, right? And that's normal. It's like a baby. I'm teaching like I'm having a baby trying to figure out how to how to do a journal entry, right? Because again, it's never been taught that. It understands accounting language. It understands how things should be, and if it gets stuck, you can interject. Okay, but the idea is that you get it to complete a task on its own first, and then you click on Save Task here in the top, and then you can automate that task, and you can run that every single day. Of course, there's always going to be the challenge with logging in. There's always going to be a challenge with I think logging in might be the biggest thing, with it stopping and saying, is this should I do this? Should I not do this? And again, it not right now, it's stuck in the loop, and I can't figure out how to move forward. So what I can do is just for experience here, I'm going to click on Take Control, and this is the teaching part. So I'm going to click on Take Control, and then I'm going to perform a step. Okay, like I stopped it before I created a new sales account. So I'm going to stop that, and then I'm going to change it to sales of product income. And then I'm going to click on Finish Up, and then I'm going to add what I did. I don't want a new account to be created. I wanted to choose the best possible account based on what's existing in the chart of accounts. And then I click on Resume Operator, and what it does now, it adds into its general instructions in what page you are in and what your expectation is for it to do in the future. So now it knows that it knows that it's not going to create. So the second time I try to do a journal entry, it will use sales or product income. And again, it will take a lot of patience at the very beginning, because this is like teaching a baby how to do a journal entry. Like it's skipping through lines, it's trying to figure things out. It doesn't know how to use tab or shift tab. It's doing all this. And my instructions were vague enough that it's not necessarily knowing the nuances of the software. But okay, so it found the accounts receivable account. It should select it at this point, and then it should do the other side, right? The credit side. And then at this point, maybe it'll add a description, and it did, right? So reversing the sales for Dunning Depot, and then it's going to add the customer in there. So it knew how to do that, and it's probably going to ask me to confirm that before it hits save. And notice even added a note in the bottom here that says adjustment to reverse fraudulent sales. So then I'm going to click on confirm, and it will finish that. All right, so once you're done with the task, and again, in the broader, we're doing this live, in a broader scheme of things, you will be doing a much more complex task and that sort of thing. You tell it was successful, right? So you're giving it feedback, and then you save the task, and then it'll automatically create a task for you, and it is very specific to the task. It gives you a list of all the websites that it's visiting, all the things that it's doing. Then you click on save, and then you can repeat this task then in the future. So you go back into operator. Let's say, for example, you were going to operator. It creates a task for you. You click on that, and it already has the pre-prompt for you, and it summarized the prompt already based on all the specific instructions. So it actually added here, create a journal entry, use existing chart of accounts options, debiting sales, and creating accounts receivable. So it rewrites the prompt, so to speak, based on its experience collaborating with you as the operator. So it's super cool, super, super exciting. All right, we're going to show you one last feature here. We're going to go into back to regular ChatGPT here. And we're going to show you something called deep research. Now, deep research can take anywhere between 5 minutes to 30 minutes. So I'm going to fast forward, but I'm going to show you the way deep research will work. And you have to be on the paid version of ChatGPT for this. And I believe that if you're in the $20 a month version, you get 10 deep researches a month. And then if you're in the pro version, which is $200 a month, you get unlimited deep researches. James asking, what is the best alternative to operator? And then James might be asking this for two reasons. One is because it doesn't seem very fast or useful, or two, because maybe they don't want to pay the $200 a month. James, it looks like there's a browser company called Opera, and doesn't seem to be out yet. But this is something I am very excited about, which is Opera browser has announced, and it doesn't seem to be available yet, has announced that very, very soon, probably summer of 2025, they're going to build in operator like tools into their browser, which means that Google Chrome and Microsoft Edge will probably follow pretty soon. But this was the first browser company that has announced that to be something that's going to happen. So it doesn't work yet. I'm like literally looking at the website every single day because what I want to see is I want to see a browser that does this on the browser and not on this window within the browser. Like I want to control what's happening. I want it to be. I don't want to put my username and password in some place. I want to be able to control this myself. So for deep research, you can ask a question like, and I'll give you an example of a question I did earlier. So for deep research, I went in here and I said, and I'm trying to train one of my new tax people, and I said, perform an analysis of this typically misused tax deductions, focus on section 162 concepts and others, and I basically have a list of, bunch of tax topics that tend to be the most challenging ones to communicate with our clients, right? Like home office deduction, business usage, meals deduction, startup costs, section 179 depreciation, business travel. And I told it this and I clicked on deep research. And then the next step is asking me, well, what exactly are you looking to do with this research? And I told it, I just want to be able to have talking points for my customers. I'm a CPA. So I'm using ChatGPT to teach me how to be more precise with my language when my customers ask me questions about some random TikTok tax advice that they saw. And it's typically these are the ones that maybe are the biggest culprits. So this took about 9 minutes. And I went in there and did a very deep analysis of every single one. And it says, generally, you can deduct anything that's ordinary or necessary. However, certain deductions are prone to misuse and errors that can trigger IRS scrutiny. And it does the analysis one by one. So it went through home office deduction. It explained what it is. It tells you allowed expenses and allocation, common mistakes, right? Audit triggers, best practices. So imagine that you have already pre-built this for you, and then you have a client that emails you about any of these particular things. Then what you can do is you can literally just copy this information, or in this case, I'm just going to select it. And within the same chat, I can click, which is something I love about ChatGPT, I can do what's called contextual replies. So after it's done its homework, after it's written a formal, deep analysis for me, I can reply to it and say, help me draft an email to a client that told me they were going to buy a G-Wagon for their business because they had $250,000 in profits and the G-Wagon was about the same thing and they want to pay no taxes at the end of the year. So again, really, really simple stuff, right? Help me draft an email to a client that told me you were going to buy a G-Wagon. And by the way, a G-Wagon is euphemism for a very expensive car. It's actually a Mercedes truck that's very ugly, but very expensive. And people love to think about the concept of buying a $250,000 car because, I don't know, rock stars or rappers use it or whatever. So I'll remove deep research because in this case, it's not going to be a deep research. It'll be just a quick email. I'll hit send on that and it will help me write that email super quickly. And then while the email shows up on the screen, I'll let CP Academy wrap up the webinar. Thank you very much, folks. Just you can watch the AI automatically create my email response to my client. So here's the email written for my client, and it helped me pretty much automate my process. Thank you, everybody.